I'm David Burris with Calerin Forge, and today we're going to be making a hand-forged bottle opener. If you've seen some of my other videos, we're going to use some of the same processes we used in those, but just apply them a little differently to make a different product. We're using a piece of 3/8 bar stock, and first thing we're going to do is get it hot and spread the end of it. Okay, and like all our projects in the blacksmith shop, first rule of thumb is get it hot, hit it hard. So we're going to heat one end of this up, and we're going to use the cross peen of the hammer to spread it. This is a cross peen hammer, and that's because the peen of the hammer is horizontal to the face. Another hammer I use a lot is a straight peen hammer, and you can see the difference there. But for spreading, it's a little easier to use the cross peen. I'll show you the way we're going to apply that. Alright, I'm going to flatten it out a little first. Out, and there's our spread. I'm going to heat this up and just barely crimp a little bit of that edge over, then round the rest of it. We'll do that over the edge of the anvil. Cool that little sharp edge there. Come out here on the tip of the horn and round that out. So there we are so far. Now I'm going to bend this back this way with the scrolling tongs, and I'm going to take this area right here and pinch it out into a little sharp point, and that's going to be our pivot point for the bottle opener. These are scrolling tongs I'm using right now. Bend that back about 90 degrees so I can get to this area right here. So I'm going to cool the thin part so it doesn't get too hot. And when you're putting something in the fire and you've got a thin piece, always, if you can, put your thinner, skinnier piece or whatever to the top of the fire. Because there's different layers of heat within the fire, and so if I put that in wanting to heat this portion up, if I stuck it in this way, this would burn up before this got hot enough because of the difference in the mass. So always put the part you want to get hot in the very center of your fire. I'm going to come right here on the corner of the anvil. So I've drawn that out thin and kind of squared it off there. So now I'm going to heat it up and roll this back around, and that'll take care of the business end of the bottle opener. Now this time I am putting the thin part down in the fire because that's what I want to heat up. This is another style of scrolling tongs that are just straight on. You can get a little more strength with them sometimes. heat that up and even it up a little bit with the scrolling tongs. And these are handy for making minor adjustments and tweaking things a little bit when you need to. You want to make sure that little edge turns up slightly, tucked underneath. So I think that'll work for our business end here. I'm going to cool that off and concentrate on the other end. And what we're going to do on this end is the only practical thing we need to do is make a way to hang it on a nail or something to hang on the wall so you keep track of it. But we're going to do something that'll serve that purpose and be decorative. This particular piece of rod I'm using is a textured rod. It looks like tree bark, so I'm going to go ahead and draw out a stem and a leaf on this with a little loop in it that we can hang on the nail. Incidentally, these are, I mean, they're good bottle openers, but they also are handy in the kitchen. My wife uses hers to pull the rack out of the oven, so without getting burned. So they've got a variety of uses. We're going to concentrate on making a leaf first.
So then the stuff is still sticking.
First thing we're going to do is sharpen this end off like we're sharpening a lead pencil. I'm slightly angling the piece against the horn of the anvil, rolling it back and forth. Always remember the iron moves like a really stiff clay, so if you ever worked with clay, you can think about that as you move the iron. I'm using this side of the hammer in creating the pinch point between the rounded horn of the anvil and the semi-rounded face of the hammer. So there's the beginning of our leaf. I'm going to heat it up and make a notch 3/4 of the way around over the edge of the anvil and then draw the stem down. There's our notch, and you notice I'm laying into this pretty hard. You have to force this into the shape you want it to be. You can't tickle it into existence. You got to get kind of rough with it. Beginning of our stem. That's always been one of the ironies, if you'll excuse the pun, to me in working with iron, is that with the violence of fire and hammer and steel, that you can create something delicate and beautiful. Just always was kind of a paradox. more stem to make it a little longer, so we got room to make a loop in it when we're done. It'll draw out just a wee bit more. We started out with a piece of 3/8 rod about 7 inches long, and I'm going to end up with the stem portion of that being about 3 inches long. Alright, so there's our stem. Now the next thing is to spread our leaf and texture it. That wouldn't bother anything. There's our rough leaf form. I'm going to use this small cross-peen hammer to form some little veins in the edge of the leaf to give it a little more organic look. I'm going to angle these slightly upward so that it follows the natural way a leaf, the veins on the leaf go. So there are our leaf veins, and the only thing left to do to the leaf is we're going to heat it up. And I'm going to use the little step on my anvil here and hit it this way to force it to cup to give it a little more natural shape, and then we'll roll the tip back over the horn. Normally you never hold on to the piece while you've got it in the fire, but in this instance my tongs are far enough away that they're not getting too heated up, and this is thin enough that I knew it was going to heat really quickly. So rather than fumbling around for them later, I can just hang on to it. Now I've got it cupped. I'm going to roll this tip back slightly. And there's our leaf. I'm going to cool the leaf and heat the stem up. And we're going to use the scrolling tongs to create a little loop that we can hang it on a nail with. Here's our little leaf with a place to hang it on the wall. There's one final test we have to put this through, and you know, the benefits of this particular project should be obvious to anybody. It works. Cheers. Happy blacksmithing.